Please be seated for a moment. Today, October 17th, is the feast of St. Ignatius of Antioch. Antioch is a city north of Israel. It's an ancient city, not to be confused with Antioch, just 20 miles north of here. And St. Ignatius of Antioch was the bishop of that early Christian city. And it's very likely that St. Peter himself consecrated him as a bishop. He was alive during the lifetime of a number of the apostles. He was born in the year 50 A.D., and he died in the year 117 A.D., so he's probably alive at the same time St. Peter, St. Paul, certainly St. John, and the rest. And he was consecrated bishop by St. Peter, and that was during the time of the Roman Empire, which had dominated that territory, and from time to time there were persecutions. And usually they were for the same reason. The emperor of Rome at that time was concerned, as you can imagine, with unity in the empire. And to achieve that, they had no freedom of speech or freedom of religion. He wanted everybody to just do the same thing. Get with the plan and worship the Roman gods. Just do it, and everything will be fine here. And so they were suspect of the Christians who were breaking with the official policy and did not want to conform. They wanted to worship their God. And so during the persecution of Trajan, around the year 115, 117 A.D., Ignatius, being a leader in the community, was put on the spot, and he said, no, I'm not going to worship the Roman gods. I'm going to worship my own God. And the emperor was enraged and ordered him bound in chains and not killed there, but sent to Rome, to the Colosseum, where he would be fed to the lions. And so today, the gospel tells us, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains just a grain of wheat. And in St. Ignatius's letter to the Christians, he says, I'm going to be that wheat that's ground up by the teeth of the lions. I'm going to read that to you in just a second. So part of the daily prayers of a priest is what's known as the divine office. And the divine office, if you do the whole thing at one shot, it's going to take about an hour. But it has a number of readings. So the second reading from this morning says, from a letter to the Romans by St. Ignatius of Antioch, bishop and martyr. All right, it says, I'm writing to all the churches to let it be known that I will gladly die for God if you only do not stand in my way. So they're trying to save him. He said, don't try to save me. Let me die for God. I want to be with God. I plead with you, show me no untimely kindness. Let me be food for the wild beasts, for they are my way to God. And here comes the reference to the gospel. I am God's wheat, and shall be ground by their teeth, so that I may become Christ's purebred. That's probably the most famous line of St. Ignatius of Antioch in Christian literature. Pray to Christ for me, that the animals will be the means of making me a sacrificial victim for God. He wanted to be with God. He knew the only way he could be with God is to die, and he did not want to go back on his word and worship a false god. He saw it very, very clearly. I only want God, is what St. Ignatius of Antioch stated. There have been other saints who said that. Francisco, remember Francisco, the visionary at Fatima? He was an 8-year-old boy, and after the miracle of the sun in October, he became famous. And people came to the village and they wanted to talk to Francisco and his sister, cousin Jacinta. And one day a couple of women from Lisbon arrived and they met the little boy and said, oh, it's Francisco. So what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be a priest? Poor kid. No. Do you want to be a doctor? No. What do you want to be? He said, I don't want to be anything. Well, what do you want? I just want to be with God. And soon he was with God. The Spanish flu took him. But he had that purity in his heart. The same thing with St. Teresa of Avila when she was a youngster. She and her little brother, she conned him into it. He was 5 years old. She was 7 years old. And she heard the stories about the Ottomans and the Turks and the Crusades. And if you're a martyr, you go to heaven. And the Ottomans were still harassing the Christians. So she talked her little brother to go on a crusade with him. They didn't tell the parents. All right, and so they left the town and they're walking for a couple of miles, and her little brother starts getting tired, and she tells him, remember, we'll be with God forever, forever, forever. Finally, the parents caught up to him and said, "Where are you going?" "We're going on a crusade." "Now you get back home right now," right? But she always had that pure love of God in her heart. That's what the saints do. So all we can do is admire this, but also ask God for that grace to want only God.